when I look at LSU versus Clemson, there are a couple of things and questions that I have going into this game. Let's look at Clemson before we start looking at LSU, because we have done a lot of stuff and talked a lot about who this LSU team is. There are a couple of questions going in this game for LSU that we got to get answered early. The first and probably the biggest conversation that we've had in reference to going into this game all season is, hey, can this offensive line for LSU keep up and handle this Clemson defensive line? They got Will Helt that you try to recruit now at edge. They have Peter Woods. They have Orange. They have TJ Parker. They have Sammy Brown that can come down and play edge for him, but he's going to be a backer. He's going to be in that front seven. And in that front seven, too, is Wade Woodaz, who they last year used in some specialized stuff as well. But that D-line versus your O-line, or that front seven versus your offensive line, can it hold up? There have been a couple of schools of thought in this. The couple of schools of thought have been, well, listen, we saw last year what happened to Clemson in the games that they lost. Even though they had Peter Woods, even though they had TJ Parker, even though they had Sammy Brown, even though they had Wade Woodaz, they were 85th in the country in rushing defense. Now, LSU wasn't good, and when we talk about this in just a moment, they weren't good at running the football a season ago. It's also a big question mark. But the question that I do have when I look into this game, and I look forward into this game, well, you might have a lot of talent, but schematically, Brandon, you still got me? Okay. Do you see the lights flicker? Yeah, we're going through some bad weather. Anyway, when I look into this game, can LSU find a way to run a football on a team that last year in some games honestly got pushed around? Now, there will be Clemson fans that come into this clip video or this live show and say, we got a new defensive coordinator in Tom Allen. That you do. And that's the other flip side of this coin. Everybody agrees, or everybody believes. Now, let me not say agrees. A lot of people believe that Clemson has one of the best front sevens in the country, or without a doubt, with TJ Parker, Peter Woods, Will Helt, Woodaz, Sammy Brown. But my question becomes, how did teams like Texas, who did not run the football effectively last year against ranked opponents, how did they do it? How did Louisville do it with Isaac Brown, who's very electric? How did Georgia, who did not run the football worth a damn all season, how did they find a way in the second half to be able to run the ball against Clemson? Well, you can turn on the film and just see, hey, man, outside of some of those absolutely ridiculous plays by Lenore Sellers, Rocket Sanders had a lot of big runs. Jaden Blue had a lot of big runs. Wisner had a lot of big runs. Why? Well, quite honestly, their offensive line were able to get pushed and get them off the ball. This LSU offensive line is going to show in more ways than one clearly if they're ready. Can Tom Allen change a lot in that front seven for Clemson? But the question is, was it scheme or was it personnel for Clemson a season ago? It's always the interesting conversation. Always being the interesting conversation of, guys, if you're running a basic inside dive, there's not a lot of scheme built into that. It's a lot of guys getting beat up front. Now, if you ask me, my thought is that they have a shitload of talent up front. And this might be one of, if not the, in the regular season, biggest challenge that you face off against in the front seven from a talent perspective. TJ Parker still had 20 tackles for loss a season ago. He still had double-digit sacks. You're still starting a relatively new left tackle. You're starting a brand-new right tackle. Do they move TJ Parker over to the side of Weston Davis or Carius Kern, who are going to be the starters at right tackle? Do they throw TJ Parker and say, hey, TJ, for this game, I'm moving you on a guy that's never started or a true freshman? This game is won or lost without a shadow of a doubt with what your offensive line does. Now, you can't have big plays hit on you defensively. You can't have turnovers offensively. There are obviously other things that you must do. But I look at this situation and say, if it's personnel, then LSU might be able to have success. If it's scheme and Tom Allen is able to come in there and do a lot of really good things for Clemson, well, then we're going to have our answer. But it's either going to be one or the other. Is this offensive line for LSU up for the challenge that they can make creases for guys like Caden Durham? Now, there are a lot of players that will have a lot of meaning for this game. The question I ask myself is Caden Durham not the biggest? Because if Caden Durham goes for 100 plus yards rushing, well, that would mean that, hopefully that would mean that consistently you had a lot of big chunk plays. You had a lot of really good runs. Say Caden Durham has 15 rushes for 100 yards. Guys, I'd take that right now. I'd take it today. Because regardless if he had 14 carries for a yard and he had 14 yards, that would mean he busted one for 85 yards that probably went for 6. My biggest concern right now going into this game, based off of what I've seen at camp and what I somewhat expect from Clemson, is our offensive line versus their front seven. Here is a point I want to emphasize on. If we find out early that maybe it just was personnel for Clemson last year and LSU's able to get push, well, clearly you're going to feel a lot better about not only yourself, but the season. And Clemson fans will be like, well, shit, maybe it wasn't the defensive play caller. You tell me what scheme in reference to inside zone. What did you do differently? Well, we moved Peter Woods inside. You're going against stronger dudes in the inside. He's getting pushed around by tackles who are not stronger than these big burly-ass guards, historically speaking. I asked the simple question of this. Can LSU go into Clemson and run the football? Because if they run the ball for 3.5, 4 yards a carry, I feel very strongly you're going to win this game. Because you can play some ball control. Now, historically speaking too, unless you make massive personnel changes, you don't completely flip the script in the run game. Let me explain. The number one team in the country last year in defending the run, or one of the best teams, let me not say the best team, one of the best teams in the country in defending the run who made the biggest leap was the University of Ole Miss a season ago. The reason they made such a massive change, they went out and got better Jimmies and Joes. They went out and paid for a better defensive line. Austin Thomas, literally, while at Ole Miss, went out and paid for that defensive line. Maybe he did it again at LSU. I think there's going to be a little bit of a mixture. What my ultimate determination going into this game is, I fully believe that you're going to be in a situation where I think you're going to go in there and run the ball a little bit. I think you're going to run the ball a little bit. I do. When I watch Clemson from a season ago, I see guys in that interior, linebackers in that interior that got pushed around. I saw opponents like Texas who lost 3 offensive linemen, and they were running up Clemson's ass against backups. They were getting significant push. That's not scheme. It just is not scheme. But Tom Allen last year did one of the most spectacular things that we've seen. There's the flip side of that coin. Tom Allen literally went off at Penn State. He's a great I got chewed out in the comment section for this. He's a really freaking good DC. He had a top 5 unit last year. Yes, he is. I just think it's the biggest thing going into this. I do think that you're going to be able to get some on them. I think Caden Durham has looked a little bit more explosive, but man, if you continue to allow what you've done in camp and some of these guys just bursting through the line of scrimmage, you're going to get destroyed. I think you're going to be able to hold up. Another thing, this Clemson wide receiver room versus our DBs. I look at this at a situation where, guys, I actually do believe that maybe outside of Alabama, because they have Ryan Williams, this is going to be the best wide receiver core that you face, I think. Wesco, Moore, Williams, a three-headed monster in an offense that wants to throw the football. I think Mansour Delane's addition to the secondary is paramount. I think adding guys like Cooley and Halsey are paramount. Can DJ Pickett give you anything? Because if he does, and even if he starts and he's able to perform, then, guys, you're clearly better on the boundary than you were a season ago. Does Ashton Stamps make that leap? But the second question mark that I have going into this game, I do not believe that you are going to stop Clemson. I don't believe that you're going to stop Cade Klubnik. Can you contain them? Can you, if they get big plays, can you get them down? Because they're going to get big plays against you. Guys, literally the best secondary in the country last year was Texas. Literally. From a passing yard games aspect, from a draft prospect, they had one of the best safeties. They had one of the best corners. They're returning a couple of them now that are preseason All-Americans, not just SEC guys. They legitimately, in the second half versus Texas, and even in the first half, took it to the best secondary in the country a season ago. When I look at them in that receiving core, I'm not asking you to stop them. You got to contain them. Because once they got in the red zone against teams that actually showed any form of physicality, they weren't able to get in the end zone. This might be the best wide receiver core. The defensive front, I still have my question marks on them because they still were 85th in the country in defensive or rushing yards allowed against them a season ago. 85th. Guys, you had two true freshmen that are out there at wide receiver for Clemson who went off against first-round draft picks. I think they're very good. I don't think you're gonna stop them. I do think you can contain them. That's the second question. Now, I said the two biggest things for Clemson that make me the most nervous was I do think they got a lot of talent in their front seven, and I know that they have a lot of talent in their wide receiver room. But here's the question that I start asking for LSU going into this game. The question that I start asking is, when I look at Clemson a season ago and when I look at them now, do they have the ability to consistently run the football on what I think is going to be a damn good defensive front seven? LSU has struggled when they got against ranked opponents, their damn selves, at stopping the run. Clemson, I retweeted this last night. Clemson at the end of the year made a change at running back. They moved Adam Randall, 6'2", 235 pounds, from wide receiver to running back. And he's probably going to be one of their bell cows. He's probably going to be their guy. And in the video when Dabo was talking about and sharing last night, Adam Randall has been very explosive when he's gotten the ball in his hands as a kick returner, punt returner, or just really a kick returner, but kick returner and wide receiver. The best thing that he does that shows up on film and per his own head coach is once he gets the ball in his hand, Pauls, he can make some special plays. This entire fall camp, I haven't seen you have any success personally. Does that just mean that your offensive line's bad and you can't run the ball? Maybe. Does it mean that this front seven might be really freaking good? I question their physicality up front along their offensive line. Tristan Lee, who we all know about and what happened in his recruitment. Miller, is Parks going to be able to go at right guard? Because their offensive line, a lot of times last season, showed against real physical defensive fronts that they're not going to be able to hang for 4 quarters. Cade Klubnik was under a lot of pressure against a lot of really good teams. Now, 3 of those teams that they faced that were in the SEC had premier dudes. Do you? Because if you do, I think you can get after him. And I think you can make it a long night for Adam Randall. But this Adam Randall kid's a player, man. He can really move. He's really physical. I wonder if Clemson can get any form of their running game going. I think that it might be a plus for you. And if it is a plus for LSU and you make them one-dimensional, I know they got a lot of really good receivers. I know they're a really good team. But, guys, you can prepare for that and you can work with that. So I think that's where LSU might have an advantage. Last but not least, I got 2 things. Last but not least, Garrett Nussmeier and these receivers. I think that Clemson's secondary has been good in a lot of moments. I also think with the core that you have, with the speed that you have, you can get to them. Last year, Texas was able to spread the ball vertically, which might be your biggest strength. They were able to use it over the middle. They were able to use it out wide. Speed killed them. Well, I know that we have speed. We got a shitload of it. World-class speed at wide receiver. And I start thinking to myself, I know they have Terrell. I know they have some really good DBs. But the games that they lost a season ago and then basing it off in this one, I saw guys with elite speed last year like Matthew Golden and others separate themselves. You have guys that can do that and make those explosive plays for you. If Garrett has the time, which I pray to God he does, I think that your plus, man, you might be able to hit some explosives on them. So the 2 things that make me the most nervous versus the 2 things that make me that I'm like, man, I really think LSU can win here, starts making for a very even matchup. But then there comes the 5th thing that we got to address. Guys, Cade Klubnik can run. And you have not had the ability to show in big games that guys and quarterbacks that can be mobile, that you can remotely come close to stopping them. It has been a problem for you the last 2 years. However, I think that you will do so much better in that arena. I think that you upgraded at edge, and I think you got more athletic there. I do think that you're going to be better in your interior of your defensive line. I think that you got much better at safety, which, guys, A.J. Halsey in this run game might be the biggest key for you defensively. Look, man, it's going to be a slugfest. Can you have a safety come down in that box and knock somebody's block off? Can you? Will he? I saw Cade Klubnik last year run away against very athletic dudes. I saw him run away against Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons. I saw him run away from Jahdae Barron. Who was their safety? God bless it. Makuba. I've literally on film and in a game see him on a quarterback draw outrun those guys, literally hit the sidelines and go for 50 for a score. Guys like Perkins, guys like Halsey, all of them are going to be paramount. They're going to be. And here's the thing. I don't mean to put anybody down to lift LSU up. But if we're going to talk about the reality, like true reality of the situation, I think Harold Perkins is better than Major Burns. I think that A.J. Halsey is better than Sage Ryan. I think that Tamarcus Cooley is better than Jordan Gilbert. And you know how I know at least one of them? Jordan Gilbert got beat out and moved to star. Literally and figuratively, you have gotten better at that position. Can you translate all of this shit to the field? I think Deshaun Spears is better than them. I thought he was better than them last year. He certainly gave me a lot more effort and didn't run away from people. If you are going to win this game, and we'll give keys to victory a week from today, if you are going to win this game, you are effectively going to run the football and keep the ball away from them. You're going to have to play a little bit of ball control. I don't want to hear it, high fly this, high fly that. I legitimately want you to play some ball control. Run the ball. Keep the ball away from them. Don't let them come in here and hit explosive plays. Wear them the fuck down. You're going to have to stop this run game in Cade Klubnik with his legs. It's not a doubt, not a question. The reason Texas almost got clipped in the playoff last year, Cade Klubnik ran all over him. He ran all over him. But the main thing that I think that can get you over the hump here, if this offensive line can not only run the football but protect Garrett, and Garrett does not make bad decisions, guys, I think you're going to win it. I'm not as fearful. Here's what I'd say. I don't know. I don't think that they are better than that Florida State team that you faced in 23. I don't.